Hi everyone, so this video is going to be on a group of Leporcanthicus, a sort of dartry niche of Leporcanthicus that I never really talk about, but they are very popular in fish keeping and aspects of it are very important to learn. So this is the carnivorous, well, the species that exploit a carnivorous niche within Hypostominae. So Hypostominae is a subfamily within Leporcanthicus, so it is a subfamily of plex, if you want to call it that. There are in other subfamilies carnivorous species, genera and taxa, such as in Leporcanthicus you have Pseudohemiodon, which is a very sort of obvious carnivorous species, as is Planilocoria, Spatuloccoria, etc. So I'm only looking at Hypostominae, which is your sort of traditional plex, very sort of usually deep-bodied, and yeah. So I will be talking about those that are eating carnivorous food. So this generally I'm referring to insects, maybe decaying bodies of animals, so could go into the slash the tritivore diet. I will also be talking about where they're eating mollusks, other invertebrates, and some will exploit sponges, but sponges kind of go across the whole load of different dartry niches. So there are only a few out of so many. I think there's over 30, I'll correct that, genera within Hypostominae. So there's only a few which actually are truly carnivorous. So this is Scobinancistrus, Leporacanthicus, Lithoxus, Exastilithoxus, and Pseudacanthicus. So these are the only ones that are truly carnivorous and do not exploit a more omnivorous niche. Those which are more the carnivorous side of omnivory, so omnivory eating a mixture of different detritivorous or herbivorous, carnivorous, so mixing the lot. And these are Hypancistrus, many of the Peckoltia, and Spectroacanthicus, which are sort of your more carnivorous side of omnivorous. But I will not be talking about those really. So they come in a variety of sizes, but the majority are on the larger scale. So of these come in two different clades. So there's two that come from the Acanthicus clade, and there's a clue in the name. So this is Leporacanthicus and Pseudacanthicus. These are part of the Acanthicus clade, and they have a real push towards gigantism, which is a clue with their adult sizes are getting on the bigger scale. This clade also contains Acanthicus, hence the name, and these are the most, the largest, and they can grow to around 1 meter standard length. So that excludes the caudal fin. So that is easily 1.5 meters of a fish. The next clade you'll find is the Lithoxus clade, and this contains the Lithoxus and Exastilithoxus. So these are, so this is in their own separate one. Scobinancistrus is not in any of these, it's on its own, any of the ones I mentioned. So they come in a variety of sizes, the carnivorous taxa, and some are easier to find than others. The largest would be Pseudacanthicus, which has a minimum length of around 18 centimetres standard length, but the largest is at 80 centimetre standard length, with an average of about 39 centimetre standard length. That is a big fish, and that excludes the tail. Some have beautiful extensions to that caudal fin. They are generally, like most Acanthicus, covered in sort of to their dermal plates. It has a lot of heavy odontode growth, which is quite sharp, hence why they're also called cactus plecos, and they're ones you definitely have to use gloves for. Leporacanthicus has that really elongated head, and I've got a video about them, and their mouth is quite elongated as well, with loads of little notches to it. They are generally called the vampire plecos because they have two vampire-like teeth, but they also have, I don't know if you could call it barbels to the mouth, but they are pretty much easy to distinguish with a notch at the back of the head around the nuchal plate, which is sort of just behind the eyes, at the middle, so at the top. And Leporacanthicus ranges from 15 to 30 centimetre standard length, with an average of about 25 centimetre standard length. So they are sort of on your bigger side, but they're manageable. Scobinancistrus or Scobinancistrus, they are on the larger side as well. They range from 22 centimetre standard length to 35 centimetre standard length. And there is an average of about 25 centimetre standard length between the species in this genus. So they are really big. You'll most probably know them from the sunshine plex, Scobinancistrus or Taurus, but there are other members you see around. So then the next two are really quite small. Definitely in comparison to the others. So Lithoxus grows from about 8 centimetres to 7 centimetres standard length, with an average of about 7.5. You won't really see many around in the hobby. There is a few people with Lithoxus tigris, I think. And the Extella Lithoxus I've never even heard of in the trade, but it could exist, and they range from about 5.1 to 6 centimetres standard length. So they are sort of on your miniature side, but they're not common at all. Then if you're looking at the more carnivorous side of omnivory, Hypancistrus tend to go from around sort of an average of about 12 centimetre standard length, and it really varies. Peckoltia varies a lot again, because you have the real miniaturised, or not really miniaturised, ones that are around the same length as Hypancistrus, and they're very similar morphologically, but they can go all the way up to about 30 centimetre standard length with Peckoltia sabagi. And Acanthicus I've never seen in the actual trade, and this one I believe would be in the Acanthicus clade, but I haven't actually looked that up. So what do they eat? I've kind of mentioned they might be eating the insect larvae that are growing in rivers around that region, and they're kind of under the rocks, in the substrate, stuff like that. Some do specialise in mollusks to an extent, so Leporacanthicus and Scobinancistrus are very good at that. You can kind of see with their teeth, they're not designed for rasping at things so much. They're more, they don't have as many teeth compared to other clades, and they're very elongated heads. So I think that really shows that they're designed for getting the sort of body out of the snail shell, because they're not going to be crunching it down like a puffer. You need really strong teeth to get through their snails. And they might be eating detritus. Pseudacanthicus is known also for eating sponges from the bottom of rivers. So sponges are, I mean, the same ones you get in the marine environment, but different species. So freshwater sponges, which take hundreds of years really to grow, and they're quite slow growers. Well, as shown, but they are quite unusual, and you don't really see them. You can't really grow them in the trade, so they can't really easily be provided. So what would I feed them? So where I don't keep any at home. I don't actually have any of their specific diets at home, but I feed stuff like Rapashi grub pie. I do have Rapashi bottom scratcher, which is an insectivore diet. It is kind of on your sort of borderline, because it does contain dried seaweed meal, but that will be part of their natural diet anyway. Other sort of diets, EBO has a lot of carnivorous based diets. They do have the sponge food diet, which I do have, because I'd expect in the wild something like my Hypancistrus to be feeding on sponges as well as other parts of their diet. So this I bought a mass load, so I put it in a jar. Because I've got so much and I don't want it to go off, so it's easy to put in the jar and then store the rest away. But a lot of carnivore diets are aimed at more herbivorous species and pretty low quality diets. So I'll be looking at sort of ones that say catfish pellets, ones aimed at carnivore species. It's best to have them sink. It's fine not to have a whole pellet or a wafer. They will feed off the bottom most often, and they will feed off a substrate. I find them a lot more easy to feed than the herbivorous species based on their mouth parts. I find they're adapted to not having to feed off a flat surface rather than sort of what rather than like a meaty sort of thing. For filtration, I find these species a lot more easier to manage than your herbivorous species. It's probably because what they're eating is a lot easier to digest. But I would still have a lot of flow, so a power head, which isn't really filtration. And I would also have a big external filter. If you want to breed them, you could, with smaller ones, you could go with an internal like sponge filter, but you really have to manage that with water changes. They will still be producing same or more amount of liquid waste. They tend to be quite fast growing from my experience, and it depends on the quality of the diet to how fast they're going to be able to extract nutrients from it. But other than that, they're great to try out if you have a large tank. The one thing with compatibility I would mention is that they tend to be slightly predatory. Pseudacanthicus probably are the worst for it. I've heard of them taking down Carnivorous, Tetra, etc. And then also Hypancistrus are known for doing it, and they will eat shrimp. Leporacanthicus I've never seen, but I wouldn't trust them not to. When you put pellets down, they do kind of pounce on it. But this could be used for enrichment. You could be feeding them live. You could be feeding them earthworms, live chopped, snails, all sorts of things. And you can really explore. I wouldn't use stuff like uncooked mussels and foods like that too often, and whitebait, because they do contain diaminase, which is a growth inhibitor stunting compound or enzyme. That does reduce their lifespan, and I wouldn't rely on one diet, one especially fresh diet entirely. Dry foods contain a lot more nutrients often. Not all do, so fluval bug bites it doesn't really contain that much. So Repashy is a really good one, EBO, and just try different things. They might be fussy at first, but yeah, just give it a go. Anyway, thank you for watching. Yeah.